Aquarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for January of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Hill-Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco.
Well, Aquarius, if this is your sun sign, if Aquarius is your sun sign, then your birthday is coming up pretty fast. You're already in your yearly mop-up period. That's the 30 days before your birthday. It's the time of deepest reflection and a swirl of energies as the themes of the previous year begin to fade out and the themes of the new year begin to come in. It's also the very best time in your whole year to get your annual birthday reading before your birthday happens so that you can align with this year's themes. You can find a link for that birthday reading in the YouTube description below, and I recommend that you do that. Julie and I are both available to help you with that. So I want to show you this thing that's been going on actually since October, but which we haven't reported before, and I think it's really important. And that is that Ceres has been retrograde. So back in October on the 8th, Ceres went retrograde in Gemini over here in your 5th house. And the whole world entered into a phase of, let's say, financial entanglements and snarl-ups, and kind of came to the end of the usefulness of some of our thinking about money. And it's time to reevaluate for each of us as individuals. How do we save money, spend money, run our money? And then also the other things that Ceres has to do with are our bodies and how we engage in good stewardship of our bodies and our food and our eating. So all of those things are up for reevaluation because Ceres is retrograde. Because it began in Gemini, that reevaluation process may have begun with a lot of worrying and nervous energy and overthinking it. However, Ceres has in the last couple of weeks retrograded back into Taurus, which makes things a lot better. Now, as Ceres had moved, I'm just going to go back here to November 26. Let's go back all the way to November 26 because there was a really interesting thing that happened. So this I would call Financial Crisis Day. I call it that because the Ceres is retrograde and opposes the sun, and it's really a peak of all of that nervousness and anxiety. And now, Julia, I think you said there was a stock market crash that day.
There was, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the sort of thing that can be reflected in the stock market. If a lot of the populace is worried about money, then they can make unexpected moves, which can be quite scary to people who watch the stock market, because the stock market is very emotional. So after that, Ceres proceeded to retrograde into Taurus right about here in December. And at this point, I think things already started to actually get a little bit better, because this is Ceres in Taurus reminding us that we need to get back to basics, back to the fundamentals. How does your body tell you that you need to eat? Like when you eat well, your body will tell you that you're doing a good job. You need to go back to that stuff. What about, when you spend your money, when you run your money in a bad way, that's when the worry happens. You need to go back to a budget that works for your life. So, fortunately, Ceres will go direct later this month, and that's going to happen January 14, and boom, there it is. Ceres no longer retrograde. This is when we can expect that things are going to start to get better. It's going to be a couple of weeks beyond that before Ceres speeds up to her usual pace. But this is the time when, we can begin to pick up the pieces and clean all that stuff up and start again in a way that is more in alignment with the fundamentals of what we know actually works for our lives. So there you have it. Julia, I know you've got some news about Mercury, Mars, and Venus. What's that good stuff?
Well, Aquarius, I'll start with Mercury. That's the planet that represents communication and mentation. And at the very beginning of the month, on the 2nd, Mercury enters your first house of self. So when Mercury is in your house of self, this is a time where we can be really much more articulate, where we can make good first impressions on people with our minds. It's a really good period to have a job interview or to do a presentation in class, to kind of anytime where you have to do any public speaking, or if you're on social media and you make videos, any type of public speaking, it is a good time for that.
Now, you can look smart, right?
You just look a little extra. You embody that Mercury energy, so you come off looking a lot more smart and a lot more articulate than you usually are. Then on the 14th, Mercury will go retrograde in your first house of self. So at that point, that's when you might be a lot more likely to be misunderstood by people. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's a time of miscommunications for everybody, but because it's happening in your first house, it's feeling misunderstood by others. You know, you try to get your point across and people walk away with some totally different understanding. So be prepared to have to go back and clear things up. Then Mars, the planet of action and activity, starts the month in your 11th house. This is the house of friends. This is the house of long-term goals. So for the first few weeks of the month, you could be very driven to achieving your long-term goals in life. This is the house of hopes, wishes, and dreams. So the stuff that takes years to realize, whether that's opening a business or buying a home. Then on the 24th, Mars goes into your 12th house. The 12th house is a very hidden place, and Mars can represent our anger as well as our activity. So with Mars in the 12th, you might notice that after the 24th, you tend to get a little itchy and irritated, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is that's causing it, because the 12th house is such a diffuse place. It can be hard to see where these energies come from. It's also a time where people can be a little bit more passive aggressive, you know, a little bit more indirectly bitchy than being sort of, you know, up in front and center with it. So, you know, just tend to, if you do notice or you're getting feedback from other people that you're being a little too passive aggressive, then take heed of that. Then Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, starts the month retrograde in your 12th house. Now, I really covered Venus retrograde a lot in our last month's video, and I spoke about how it would specifically affect you in the 12th. So you can always go back to that month to hear more in depth what the cycle is like. However, you know, the 12th house, since it's a spiritual and altruistic place, and Venus retrogrades tend to be time of review, you could be reviewing your current partner in terms of whether you guys have a good shared spiritual or altruistic base. This is also the house of self-undoing, so you might be wondering whether your relationship right now is a vehicle for your own self-undoing or whether it is something healthy. So a good time period to really do that sort of soul-searching, Aquarius. And I know we've got some really good stuff on Juno coming up, which everyone's going to be interested in.
Yes, that's true. Let me just scroll back time here a little bit. So here we have Venus retrograde in your 12th, as Julia's been saying, and the Sun and Juno coming together, and Juno is moving direct or forward. Now, Juno signifies marriage or committed relationships, committed partnerships of all kinds, whether personal or professional. So business partnerships, contracts that you have with people one-on-one, or the kinds of work that takes you into a one-on-one relationship with another person. And then Venus signifies more of the feelings inside the relationship, like the connection, the warmth, right? So, and Venus, I think we need to remember, is exalted in the 12th house. And that's because Venus in the 12th house takes love, like human love, and elevates it to the level of spiritual love. Now that can go too far, right? Sometimes perhaps, you know, during this Venus retrograde cycle in the 12th house, you may find that you have undone yourself by being overly accommodating towards a partner that you feel a deep spiritual love for. And then, you know, you could easily discover that they're not really reciprocating that, and that it undoes you, you know, and that's an unhealthy and codependent situation. Now, Juno being in the 12th house here with the Sun and conjuncting it, and boom, there we see that happen as the Sun hops over Juno. this suggests that this is actually a great month for committed relationships to go forward, even while the emotional side of relationships, the bonding side, is undergoing a retrospective. So, and I like to call this day that Sun conjuncts Juno, it's January 11th and 12th, Commitment Rapture Day, because it's a really good time for commitment to go forward. So like, you know, if you feel like a relationship passes the Venus litmus test, then let Juno press you to commit more deeply to that relationship. Okay, well, there's a couple of moons to talk about as well. Right here, early in the month, we have the new moon in Capricorn, and that falls in your 12th house, along with most everything else. And this is related to that idea of your mop-up period, right? The 12th house is introverted, it's retrospective, it's a house of retreat and reflection. And the new moon there is we're calling this moon, where do I have it? Yes, when toughing it out doesn't work anymore. And we're calling it that because the new moon in Capricorn is about just trying to power through it. And the square to Chiron here that this moon has just suggests a tendency to go on toughing it out and toughing it out and toughing it out until you're ready to break. And so this moon might show us that the breaking point is closer than you think. So watch out for that under this new moon, and let yourself instead move into a phase of new beginnings where you don't have to be so brittle. Then we see the second moon of this month happening as the moon moves into Cancer and falls in your 6th house, opposing the sun, still in your 12th house with that pile of Capricorn planets. And this moon we're calling relax and allow the break you've been working toward, which is interesting because this moon falls in your 6th house, which is a house of work and health and service. And this is suggesting that for you, work is something that is meant to be nurturing, supportive, and emotional. And this moon is your opportunity to relax into it rather than fighting to be strong about it. Okay, so then the last thing I want to tell you about is the sun changing signs, which means changing seasons, leaving Capricorn, moving into Aquarius, which is your sign. Your season is about to begin. So this is a season when the light is growing, right? We've passed the solstice. The solstice is over. The light is increasing, and that feels really good. And so in cultures around the world, we have a celebration of light and of birth and renewal. And so, you know, that shows up in terms of Candlemas, which is part of Catholicism, or Brigid, as the Western world pagans like to call it. And then there's also the Chinese New Year, which is like in a solely lunar calendar. So this is a time to, begin to enjoy the increasing of the light, and also to bring and allow the spotlight of attention right on your very self, Aquarius, because it's here in your 1st house. So start to allow other people to notice you and bask in their attention and enjoy their attention, and then, give it back, radiate it backward. This is your month of being royalty, so enjoy it. Okay, well, that's what we have for you today, Aquarius. You can find your horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscopes tab. You can always find the news of the month on our monthly forecast there, including videos about Ceres retrograde, Venus and Juno, and the moons of this month. And you can find videos about that on our YouTube channel too. And if you want to see either of us for a reading, you can find the services page or the readings page on our website. And we have classes to offer as well. Until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.